Okay, Rabbi, this week we're going to get rolling with Hilchas Taloyim. Worms, bugs in our food. You know, in the Torah, big Yisurim, 4, 5, 6 lavim. When does it apply? Where does it apply? How does it apply? How do we get out of this issue? Is this something new that's made up nowadays? Has this always existed? What's going on? Is this just some chumrah? Is this the reality? Okay, in the Torah we see there's 3 types of shratzim. Sheretz hamayim, sheretz ha'oif, and sheretz ha'aretz. The guys that like to swim, those guys are 4 lavim. The chevra that likes to crawl, they're 5 lavim. And the chevra that knows how to fly, those guys are 6 lavim. Now, just a little history, because a lot of people say, our family minhag is we don't check. My father never checked. I don't have to check either. Is there something to that? Is that legitimate or is that not legitimate? So, in the 1930s, they came up with a great invention. It was, I think it's called DDP. It's this type of things that they sprayed on the crops. And it did a phenomenal job of killing all the bugs. And since it did such a good job at killing all the bugs, there was no bug problems in food. They didn't need to check fruits, vegetables. I know this is what happened in America. I'm not quite sure historically, Eretz Yisrael, but in America at least, they sprayed this DDP on on all the fruits and vegetables, and in Mela there was no problem of bugs. Then came sometime in the 1970s, and they realized that this DDP is not only good at killing bugs, it actually is very good also at killing people. And they decided, it's very good, we're very happy that it's killing bugs, but this killing people thing is a little bit of a problem, and therefore they made it illegal to use the DDP. Once they stopped spraying the DDP on the fruits and vegetables, then the bugs came back, and there started to be more problems of bugs in the fruits and vegetables. And then there's another thing that happened historically. The world became a much smaller place. It became a global village. And not only did we learn how to bring food from Italy to America, the pizza came from Italy to America, but we also learned over the years how to bring everything, import and export all sorts of items, including bugs. And therefore, once we started importing and exporting various bugs from one location to another location, now, instead of, let's say strawberries only having to deal with 2 types of bugs, now there's 17 different types of bugs that go in the strawberry. Those numbers aren't accurate. I'm just trying to give you the basic idea. There's many more bugs to deal with all over the place because we have imported them from around the world. So that is what the story is. And therefore, it's true, before sometime in the mid-1970s, there was very little bug problems. That doesn't mean that there isn't bug problems here. Next thing is, some people think this is a mitzvah tluya ba'aretz. There's an Eretz Yisrael thing, the bugs. There are bugs in Chutz La'aretz as well. How do I know? Because the Chacham Adam and the Aruch HaShulchan, they also talk about bugs, and they don't live in Eretz Yisrael. No, but seriously, bugs are really everywhere, but it's true that in Eretz Yisrael, the bugs are worse than, say, America. I don't know exactly, to what extent. Okay. Now, the first chiddush that I want to bring up with people, because a lot of people will be surprised by this, is not all bugs or worms are usser. They're not all usser. There's some of them that you could eat. What? Really? Yes. Let's start off with the Chacham Adam, who says that microscopic bugs are not usser. They're not included in the isser. The Torah wasn't loy nitna l'malchei sharis. The Torah didn't expect that we're going to have an inbuilt microscope or inbuilt magnifying glass, and if the eye doesn't pick it up, we're not misyachas to it. We're not misyachas to the things that the eye does not pick up. Now, whose eye? Does that mean I could get my grandmother to check the lettuce? So, as my good friend Chesler used to joke around about, no, you cannot get your grandmother to check the lettuce. All the Poskim, Rav Folk, and Shlomo Zalman, etc., they all say that you need somebody with good eyesight. A regular, normal 20/20 person. Somebody that doesn't have glasses, or somebody that has glasses and is wearing their glasses. You need somebody with, pretty decent eyesight to check. And if the person with good eyesight checks and he can't find the bugs, memela, it would be allowed. Now, we're going to be discussing for the first section of the shiur all these certain bugs that grow up. They're born inside the water, or they're born inside maybe the fruit, or they're born inside different things, and we're going to say that they might be allowed to be eaten because since they were never exposed to the world, they were never pirish, the halacha surprisingly is that they are allowed. Now, science used to believe in something called spontaneous generation, which pretty much meant yesh me'ayin, that these organisms, these bugs, just showed up from nowhere. And if you understood that they showed up from nowhere, that's really where we had the question whether those bugs are usher. Now, we know, or we think, I don't know, it might change in 20 years, not back to how it used to be, I'm not sure. But as of now, we believe that all these bugs have a mommy bug and an abba bug, a mommy bug and a daddy bug. And that's how we get this baby bug. Now, so does that destroy this whole simon? Because now there's a mommy bug and a baby bug, so it didn't just show up from inside that fruit, or it didn't just show up from inside that fish, and it didn't just show up from inside that water. So what's the story with that baby bug? So, I'll just actually pick out, the Chazon Ish says that nowadays the simon pretty much doesn't apply, because there's a klal that we mentioned many times in Shas and Poskim, kol hayotzim mitamei tamehu. Anything that comes from a tamei source is tamei. So therefore, if it comes from a not kosher mommy bug and tati bug, so there the baby bug is not going to be kosher either. However, the Poskim do not take on this Chazon Ish. The Poskim reject this Chazon Ish, as we know. For example, the Machzeh Eliyahu says that if the egg is something that's too small for the eye to pick up, but then we can now see it, that egg, which is too small for the eye to pick up, has the din of offer. It doesn't have the din of an egg. And therefore, since it came from something which the eye couldn't pick up, now this bug is now considered like yesh ma'ayin. It's not considered yotze min hatamei, and memela, eating that bug would be allowed. Now, the Machor Zerua explains that until it's parish, until it comes out to the atmosphere, it doesn't have a shem sheretz. And, some go very far with this. The Divrei Chaim, I saw, goes very far. The Divrei Chaim says that those fish that are born in our mikvah, the fish in the mikvah, is a shark in the mikvah? The fish in the mikvah, those fish that are born in the mikvah, and then they die in the mikvah, and you take them out, you can eat them even if there's no fins and scales. Not kosher fish, seemingly. Zak the Divrei Chaim, the Sanzer, you could eat those fish with no fins and scales. I don't know what was going on in that Sanzer mikvah. It sounds ganz leibedik. But those fish that came out dead, once they were already dead, since they died while they were still kosher, because they were never parish from that mikvah, they are kosher according to the Divrei Chaim. Okay. Now, the Shevet Levi says, let's talk about something, a big hack. I know my daughter came home from school and she told me you have to wash the oranges very well because they have these black dots, and these black dots are really bugs. And these black dots are bugs, and therefore, if you cut it with a knife, the bugs are going to go into the orange, and that's going to be a problem. That's going to be lavim. So very important, you wash your oranges with soap. So I said, really? Those are bugs? So the Shevet Levi says those black dots on an orange, they're not a problem. You look at it, do you see a bug? You don't see a bug. You see a black dot. And with a microscope, you might see a bug. But with your eyes, you don't see a bug, and memela, they are not a problem. I guess the Shevet Levi is arguing with Menahelet. Okay, what can you do? But L'maisa, it's not so simple, because the Chazon Ish was machmer on this, because he had a svar, which I find to be very mechudesh, What was the svar of the Chazon Ish? The svar of the Chazon Ish was that you could see it. Your eye picks it up. So since your eye picks it up, you're chayiv to be boidik it and check it. And once you see that it's a black dot, you have to check with a magnifying glass to see that it's a bug. So to me, it sounds like a chiddush. Okay, I want to pick a very big case study because this case study is this case study is was a big controversy, a big fight, and it shows us a lot of dinim that we could learn from this. So there was once a guy who probably a brisker with a PhD in microbiology or something like that. You know the type of guy. The same guy who figures out that there's a problem with the shaitels, and he figures out, like, I don't know, your detergent has a problem of basar v'cholov, and, your yarmulkes are shotness. You know that guy? Okay, so he was once drinking the water in New York, and he looks and he's like, what are these white dots? I wonder what they are. So he took out a magnifying glass, and he looked at the white dots under a magnifying glass, and he saw that they were white dots. Now, apparently he wasn't satisfied, so he said, I wonder where those white dots came from. So I don't know how he figured this out, but he somehow went down to the reservoir, and he saw that those are cocopods, I don't know what exactly they are, cocopods. So he saw that they're these cocopod bugs, they jump around, but when they get into the chlorine section of the reservoir, so the chlorine kills them, and now they shrivel up into these white bugs. When they're in when they die and they shrivel up into these little white dots. When they're dead and shriveled up, you can't tell what they are. But when they're alive, you could tell what they are. So the question is that considered to be a problem is that considered to be a problem? And I want to add another point or two besides that. I forgot one thing that I should mention. If these bugs are in the water, you're allowed to drink it. You're allowed to drink the water. You don't have to be chayshish that there's a problem with bugs. Because even if there's bugs in the water, those bugs have never been pirish. And if those bugs have never been pirish, then those bugs are mutter to drink. So you're allowed to drink that water. Now, there's different types of water. I don't want to get too involved. Bar, siach, ma'ara, charitzin, and there's a whole list of different type of ni'itzim. Now, what the difference between all these different types of waters are is beyond this shiur, and I didn't really get too deep into it. But pretty much the types of waters that are connected to the water source, though in those bodies of water, the bugs that are inside there are mutter. You could stick your face into the water and drink from there. But the ones which are not their natural source or whatever, they seem to be more often that you cannot stick your face in and drink from it. And it happens to be over here, there was a machlokes between Reb David Feinstein and Reb Belsky. The Reb David Feinstein held that these waters are the problematic type, and Reb Belsky held they were okay. Okay. Now, let's say you see a bug. Can you actually drink the bug? That you can't actually drink the bug if you see the bug, because that would be an issue of Baal Tashaksu. Taz says it's depending on your personal disgust, whether it disgusts you. The Shach says it's whether it disgusts people at large. Now, an interesting thing is, even from that water, if it's the type of water that you're allowed to take from, if you take it in a cup and you pour it from a cup to a cup, but it's always within the water, so then it's going to be allowed. So kli l'kli is going to be allowed. Now, what should we call it? So, fine. Now, to speak about this further, the question is going to be, right now, I can't tell what it is. But if I would have checked it out while it was still alive, I could have told, I would have taken a peek at these, and in 1 second, what would I have said? Obviously, it's just some cocopods. Copods, whatever they are. So, if you see that dot, but you can't tell what it is, but if it was alive, you'd be able to tell, is that a problem? So, Rav David Feinstein said it's a problem, and he answered. Reb Belsky said it's not a problem, and he mattered. Now, how do I judge? Another question. they're not in every sip, these cocoa pods, these white dots. So how do I judge if it's muhsik or not? Because there's going to be a rule that we're going to discuss, which is going to come up over and over again. Something that's muhsik, that it's expected to have bugs. Most of the time it has bugs, that you have a chiyuv of checking it midaraisa. Something that we'll call it, for now, we're going to get greater detail later, let's call it a 10 to 50% chance of having bugs. It's something that we call mina matzui. There's a chance, but it probably doesn't have bugs. That is a chiyuv of checking through Rabbanan. And something that has under 10% likelihood of having bugs that you don't have to check. Now, we're discussing likelihood of what? If you're talking about each sip, so there's a very low 1% chance on each sip that you're going to have a bug. So therefore, it wouldn't be an issue. Or do we judge by the house's water storage thing? The water, what do they call it? I don't even know what it's called. But if it's let's say the hot water at least, the water tank in the house. So in the water tank of the house, it's muhsik to have these guys. Because when you have a large amount of water, it's not so hard to statistically have one of them. So it's unclear how to judge. So, Rebelsky wants to go with the sip, and he's Makel, and Rav Feinstein is Machmer for the whole water tank. So, based on this point of being difficult to judge, you'll have different ways of looking at it. Now, the Maisa, as Rebelsky writes, nobody ever said that somebody needs to walk around with a magnifying glass. And if nobody ever said that somebody needs to walk around with a magnifying glass, so therefore all these things are going to be fine. Ravai quotes Rav Yashiv, and he says that if it was a bug that could have been seen, it's a problem. Now, over here, you might want to argue that this case of the cocoa pods are even worse than a standard let's say the orange case, because over here it was a man-made process that turned the bug from something you could see to something you can't see, because it was the man putting the chlorine into this reservoir which killed the bugs. So there is a tzad to say it's actually worse. Okay, but l'maisa it's not pasha. The Piskei Tshuva quotes the Yavitz, and he says that if you could see something, so you need to check further to find out what it is. Whereas the Maram Shik says, if you don't see anything in the water, you could drink it. You don't have to go crazy. Rav Moshe Sternberg has a little bit of an interesting in between. He says that if you can't tell what it is when you look at it with your eyes. But after looking at it with a magnifying glass, you could see what it is, even without the magnifying glass, then it's a problem. Once you know what it is, then you could pick up on it. So I think once again with these oranges, I don't think you could see it. Even when you put away the magnifying glass and you look again, I don't think you could see a bug. So it seems that our example of the oranges, as that is a case study, it seems like Rav Moshe Sternbach would be Mako on it. Okay, the Darkei Tshuva brings the Ben Avram that says something that is nicker when it was alive and is now dead, and you can't see it, it's aser. So it seems like the Ben Avraham would aser, but once again, I don't know how authoritative that would be. Okay, let's go weiter. Now, we said this at a point. Once the bug is pirish from its source, now it's aser. But if it's pirish in a kli and it goes from kli to kli to kli, from cup to cup to cup, it is mutter. How does that relate to flour? It's one of the things that a lot of people understand. Historically, everybody used to check flour. Tons of people check flour nowadays. Is it necessary? So the Shulchan Aruch says that worms that are found in the flour are aser. Because Shema part, we're concerned that maybe the bugs went out of the flour and went back into the flour. So even though we found them right smack in the middle of the flour, it's still a problem because maybe they left. And the Ramah goes so far, it's hard to understand the Ramah. The Ramah says you can't even sell it to a guy because maybe the guy will then sell it back to a Jew. Now the Shach asks, surely this is a svek, he doesn't understand the Ramah. Suffolk if there was a bug in the first place, and if there was a bug in the first place, Suffolk that when you sell it to the guy, it will get sold back to the Jew. But Lamaisa, the Ramah argues, even though the Ramah answers, even though it's hard to figure out. Now it's very difficult. How do you just, when something's in a body of water, it's very easy to understand what's parish. What do you consider leaving a body of water? But when it comes to flour, it's not so simple. What's considered leaving the flour? What is the flour? Do you say where that one kernel was smashed? Do you say each dot? Then it leaves every second because it's each dot. Or do you say maybe the bag of flour? And if you say the bag of flour, okay, maybe it's locked in the bag of flour. So the Maisa, the Shari Dura, brings the Rivam that you judge by the bag. If it didn't leave the bag of flour, it's not considered to be parish. And then the Shari Dura argues, he rejects it. The Shachataz rejects it. The Pri Chodesh says he agrees with the Rivam. The Noidim Yehuda says if somebody wants to be samech on the Rivam and say that any flour, if the bug didn't leave the flour, it's not considered parish and the bug is mutter to eat, then you can't be meicha. Now Ravai quotes Rav Elyashiv as saying, yes, you should be meicha, and we cannot rely on this. Now the Aruch HaShulchan says that once it got to the paper, the side of the bag, inside the paper or plastic of the bag, at that point it's called parish. Now just an interesting thing to note. Apparently, in the processing of flour, it's all sifted. Even non-sifted flour is sifted because it's sifted to get rid of all the junk that's in the flour. And what ends up happening is that it will get out all the bugs when they sift it, but the eggs are too little to get out. So therefore, the eggs stay in the flour because they don't get caught by the sifter. So after it's sifted, the eggs within 3-4 days they hatch. And now, those bugs that you find in the flour, they're actually born in those flour bags. So, apparently, if you freeze that flour for 4 days, those bugs will never hatch. So, if you get flour, the Star Cake claims the Metzias. I can't tell you I know anything more or less. I definitely don't know more. I definitely know less. But apparently, if you freeze the flour within the first 3 days after it was sifted, then if you freeze that flour, then for 4 days the eggs will never hatch, and that wouldn't require sifting. Now we're going to see whether it will require sifting in the first place, but okay. Now let's figure out a couple of heterim why you wouldn't need sifting. So once again, according to the Pri Chodesh, with the Rivam, they say that if it's in the bag, it's not parish. If it's not parish, you just dump the bag into your bowl. As long as you don't see bugs flying out anywhere, then you add the water, you mix it up, and it's not a problem, even if there was bugs in there. Now, we know that a beria isn't batal. This is a basic question in the sugya I should have mentioned earlier, which is a very simple question. We know things are batal in 60, right? When you have something not kosher piece, it's usually batal in 60. This bug is teeny. It's for sure going to be batal in the food that you're eating 60 times. And if the bugs are so big that they're not batal in 60 times the amount of food, you got problems, and what you're eating is really disgusting. So don't do that, please. Okay, so if the bug's batal in beshishim, what's the problem? So the answer is, it's considered it's called a beria. It's a creation of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's a full creation of a Kodesh Baruch Hu with this bug. And it's a living creature. And therefore, it's chashiv. And we know that a davar chashiv, something that's important in chashiv, is not batal. So therefore, if something is important in chashiv, it's not batal. Therefore, this beria, this bug, won't be batal. Okay. So, fine. But by the way, if once it's missing a leg, it's not a full bug, then it would be batal. Okay, so the Rashba says, even though it's not batal in 60, it's batal in 960. I don't know where the Rashba gets that from, but that's what the Rashba says. So, I hope it's batal in 960. It better be. And therefore, that's another sniff laheter. We don't rely on that straight up, but it's another sniff laheter. The Shivas Siyan says, when you're eating your misasik, you have no kavanah to eat the bug. And it's not a psik ratio, you're going to eat the bug, and you get no enough from the bug, and mamela it's mutter. Once again, we don't hold to that, but it's another sniff laheter. The Aruch HaShulchan says that bugs are pugum, they're nasty. And since they're nasty, they lose their status of beria, of something chashiv, and therefore they could be batal in 60. Once again, it's something else that we don't generally hold of, but it's definitely a sniff laheter. Then there's the Dagul Merava, that there's a case in the Gemara in Baba Kama, I think it is, where a shiur haniskel, a shiur that kills somebody, and now the shiur needs to be put to death, gets mixed up with 1,000 other shiurs. So you can't say bittul l'chayra because it's a shiur that is that is very chashuv. It costs $5,000 for a shiur. I don't know. It's not going to be chashuv. It's not going to be bittul. So there's a chiddush over there that it is bittul. Why is it bittul? Because since it was originally created beheter and now it becomes aser, apparently something like that will still be bittul. So this bug is Zakt Dagmal Rava. This bug as well. It wasn't created be'isr. This bug was created beheter because it was in the flour. Remember? So since it was created beheter, therefore, and now it only becomes aser once it's pirish. So memela, it's not going to have a problem, and it will be batal b'shishim. Next, lemaisa, what are you doing with it? You're kneading it and baking it. When you knead it and bake it, it's probably going to lose a leg. And if it loses a leg, it's not going to be complete anymore. And if it's not going to be complete anymore, so therefore, it will be batal anyways. And the most important one is, I don't believe that flour is miyad umatzoi anymore. I think maybe historically, once upon a time, maybe it was. But I think at this point, it's just not true anymore. How often, I remember we used to sift flour before we started buying the pre-sifted, that we used to, and once, I think my wife once found bugs. And one time. But the other 70, 80 times she did it, she didn't find bugs. So therefore, I think it's hard to say that is something that is miyad matzah. It's definitely not 10%. And in Meilah, I think it's pretty clear, you don't have to buy sifted flour. And you don't have to sift the flour. I think any flour will do. Maybe there might be a chumrah of buying flour from a place that moves flour around a lot. Meaning a place that has high turnover, that's not sitting in a makolet, on the bottom of a dirty makolet for 3 years, and likely to have bugs. But it seems to me, you buy flour from Osher Ad Sharivacha, it sounds to me like you really don't need to sift it. Okay, now just one side question. As I pointed the Ramah earlier, the Ramah says you can't sell it to a guy because maybe it will come back to a Jew. Is there a heter for these fruit stores and whatever to sell things that are infested with bugs? You can't sell to a guy because maybe it's going to be sold to a yid because svika still answers, and you go and sell it straight, and people are not going to really be checking. Tzarichi and gadol. Okay, weiter. Now Shmuel says that a bug that's born in a fruit that's on the tree, it's aser. Why? Because that's like it's born in the ground. Because the fruit's connected to the tree, which is connected to the ground, and therefore it's like it's born in the ground, and that is aser. But if it was born after the fruit was already picked, then that bug is mutter. Now, the Rambam and the Rif are machmer for the Shita of Shmuel. And the Shulchan Aruch actually passes this way. Something actually to point out interesting is the Rambam doesn't just say he's choshish for Shmuel, he actually will give you malchus for it, which means he holds the Pesach as vade like Shmuel, and therefore if there's bugs that are born in the fruit, it's much more machmer than in the water, for example, and it would be a problem. However, there is a Taisus in Chulin which is Mekel, but we're machmer for the Rambam. But as the Kaf HaChaim points out, this is still a suffix, and it could be mitzaref to svek sveka. What about mushrooms? So the Mechaber holds by mushrooms, we treat it as not as something that's yonik from the ground, and therefore, if there's bugs in the mushrooms, it's okay. Whereas the Ramah says it is considered something from the ground, and therefore bugs in the mushrooms would be a problem. What about a atzis shein and nakaf? We always see in Shas all over, something grows in a flower pot. How do we treat it? Is that considered like growing in the ground? So, it's a big shayla. And there's a big nafkamina by a greenhouse. So some say by greenhouses, it's a suffix, and a lot of the stuff that we have nowadays is grown in greenhouses. So it might be all the stuff that's grown in the greenhouse is a suffix because the bugs that grow in those items might be kosher bugs. So, and you might even, there's some that want to say that a miyat sheina matzai that grows in a greenhouse should be allowed because it's a sveka. Because suffix whether the bug's aser or not, and imtim slimer it's aser, suffix if there's even a bug here. I should have done it the other way around. But okay. And Lemaisa Rav Vazner doesn't like this and says you have to treat it like a regular rules of miyat sheina matzai. But once again, there's something else that could probably be mitzaref to as a sniff lahater. Now, there's this discussion in the Chronim about things that grow on a kli, and the Kaf HaChaim says you have to be machmer. So it's talking exactly what's the plastic of the greenhouse. It's hard to say because I think that a lot of the floors are covered in plastic. Now, Siv Zayin. So when the Mechaber says when it's a matzav of a suffix, we're actually machmer. So if we don't know when it came, whether it came when it was after it was picked or before it was picked, we are machmer. Siv Ches says. So if it's an item that you don't have bugs on the inside, like grapes, and then you won't have a problem, and you dry it out, you won't have a problem inside, right? If there's bugs that you find inside, it won't be a problem. Now, I'm just going to jump to this. The Taz says that these things like raisins, it's not a problem. I don't care if you end up finding it's a suffix whether there's bugs in it or not. And even if there are bugs, there's suffix if there's bugs, and even if there are bugs, it's suffix if the bugs were allowed. And therefore, the Taz is mater raisins. And, not everybody's cool with that. The Minchas Yaakov says the Taz is a Pella. The Beis Shlomo and the Pri Megadim says you can't rely on the Taz. So it's one of these situations of big hak. Fine. We'll skip that. That's not so important. Fine. Now, the big question is going to be like this. We have these rules. If it's muhsik, something that's likely to have bugs, more than 50% has bugs, it has a chiyuv b'dika, you have to check it mid'oraisa. If it's something that is a miyat sheina matzai, which is, we'll see in a second what the percentages are. Let's call it for now 10% and up. Then you have a chiyuv mid'orabanan checking. And if it's miyat sheina matzai, something that, it's a fluke chance that it's going to have a bug, there you don't even have to check. Now, we're going to be discussing different amounts and different, how much what percentages, what are we talking? The Mishkas Yaakov, who says that it's 10%, and we'll see different things. Rav Elyashiv was quoted as saying 7%, and we have different numbers floating around. But the bigger shayla is not going to be what the percentage is the cutoff point between miyat she'ena matzai, where you don't have to check at all, versus miyat shematzai, where you do have to check. The question is going to be percentages of what? So let me just give an idea. Like the Mishkas Yaakov example is you have to check 10% of cows. All right, cows are very clear. It's a unit of a cow. But lots of items are not nearly as clear as to what a unit is. So for example, lettuce. You have to check each leaf. Is there 10%? Are there bugs on 10% of the leaves? Probably not. Or do you do, as Rabbi Frati quotes Rav Elyashiv, the heads of lettuce? Now, are there bugs in 10% of heads of lettuce? The answer is probably yes. So therefore, it's going to be very clear. Fine. So we got the kolam. Let's try to understand a little bit about this. By the way, there's another big nafkamina. Something that's muhsik, you need a adult to check it. Your kid is not allowed to check it. But something that's miyat she'ena matzai, you could actually have a kid checking. So, what is it? So the Shevet Levi, by the way, says miyat matzai is not about percentages. It's about your hagasha in this. A miyat matzai is something that, you're not expecting to find, but it doesn't surprise you that you find it. Oh really? This is one that has a bug? Oh, that's a miyat she'ena matzai. What's a miyat she'ena matzai? Oh, taka? There's a bug? Oh, I was not expecting that. You're surprised. Now, I know surprised you could be. It's not, whoa, shocked, but surprised. So the Shevet Levi is not a mathematical equation. It's a hargasha equation. So if it's something you're surprised, you're kind of expecting it's possible. That's miyat amatzai. But if it's something that I wasn't expecting that. That's miyat she'ein amatzai. Now, what are we going to judge by? So Rav Elyashiv says we're going to judge by the amount you buy. The amount you buy. So this is very difficult. I don't really understand this shita. So you look at the amount that you buy. Is this going to be, what's the likelihood of finding bugs in this? So when I buy my one bag of lettuce, it's miyat she'ein amatzai, because there's less than a 5% chance of me finding bugs in this lettuce. But when the hotel goes to the same makola, the same fruit and vegetable store, and buys 100 bags of lettuce, now they have then it's muksik that it's going to have bugs, and they have a chiyuv of checking every last bit. It's very hard to understand if we're dealing with the same package of lettuce. But that apparently is what Rav Elyashiv says. The problem is there's no good answers. There's problems, there's kashas on everything. Rav Vazu says it's dependent on how much you're going to check at this time, which is also weird. How much am I going to check? I mean, I'll check depending on how lazy I am. So the guy who's more lazy, less lazy, that makes a difference. But if you understand, I heard a share from Rav, a question of Rav Vosner, and said it made no sense. But the truth is, I think there is something that makes sense, because Rav Vosner's l'shitase, as I said before, I might have called it the Shevet Levi, same Rav Vosner, that because for him it's about argasha. So in this checking, am I expecting to find or am I not expecting to find? Am I surprised if I find in this checking or am I not surprised if I find in this checking? So that's why Rav Vosner goes with this checking. Rav Shlomo Zalman, he goes with the item, the unit. So when it comes to lettuce, it's a head of lettuce, which is a big chumrah. So am I likely to find in this head of lettuce? Decent chance. Or when it comes to rice, it's a big kula. Am I likely to find in this one piece of rice? No, you're not. And therefore, lefiza, you probably wouldn't need to check rice. Now the Star K, they have their own vart. I just don't know where they got it from, but it's I hear the vart. Portions, one person's portion. You know, how much is a person's portion, and you check that amount. Are you likely to find bugs? I hear this var. The OU apparently says you're packaged. How much is packaged? So this also gets a little funny. Let's say you have the same brand that sells the same lettuce, but they sell one thing of lettuce in a package, or they sell 3 things of lettuce in a package. Now, let's say in 6% of packages there's bugs, right? In 6% of heads of lettuce there's bugs. So when they sell one package, you have no chiyuv b'dika, but when they sell the 3 in a package, then you do have a chiyuv b'dika. It's kind of hard to understand. Tzarichin. And maybe the way that it's eaten is another thing that I saw thrown around. It's very hard. I don't have tainas or kashas on all the kashas for what they're coming up with. I mean, there's a meheketesi stamp question on them, but l'maisa it's very unclear. Now, the Ramah said, "Are you allowed to do sampling?" Let's say I have a miyat matzai, and I want to check through 10%. Oh, it's all clean, and the rest is fine. So simply not, because the Ramah says when you have a miyat matzai, the entire thing needs to be checked. However, it's not so simple, because sampling really could help. How could sampling help? Because sampling can help you to clear out the miyat hamatzai, but sampling could help you to tell you what's in front of you. So you could use sampling to say, listen, there's some batches, and the Tashbitz actually points this out, you could have in the same type of strawberries. You could have one crop that's infested and one crop that's clean. So you could do checking to see which crop this is. And Manila, you could judge based on that. That's actually the frozen strawberries. A lot of people are very confused. What does this mean? All of a sudden I freeze the strawberries and now there's no bug problems? How does that work? The answer is yeah. Because the way that it works is they find a crop, Bodek or whoever it is, they find the crop somewhere where they hear it's a very clean crop. They send their mashlichim down. They check that crop of strawberries, and they see this is a great crop. There's bugs in only 2% of the strawberries. Or or maybe there's bugs in 10% of the strawberries. They take that, they buy large amounts from that crop. They rinse it off a little bit to move it from 10% down to 5%, let's say. And now they freeze it. And because now it's a miyat she'eina matzah, they freeze it, and now you could use it. Or it might be only for grinding, depending on which hashkacha and what's the mitzias. But that is what could be done. I didn't explain that grinding yet. I'll get to it soon. Okay. Now, do you have to check it? Could I wash it instead of checking it? So if washing is going to take away all the bugs, then for sure you could wash instead of checking. Are you allowed to wash to bring it down a level from miyat she'eina matzah to miyat shematzah to miyat she'eina matzah, or from muchzik to miyat she'eina matzah? And the poskim do allow you to wash it to bring it down a level. It happens to be Moshe Sternbach wasn't a big fan of this idea of washing to bring down a level, but Lamaisa, we say that you could do that. Now, let's speak a little bit about Sif Yud. Just a point. If you find 3 bugs in the salad, then you have to check every little bit of the salad. And the box says 2. I say 1. No, I'm not arguing on them. I think we should throw. We're not eating that salad once you find 3 bugs. I don't know why it took you so long, but that's lucky. You find 3 bugs. It's a problem. Box is 2. The minig is 3. Now, that seems like a simple halacha when you're dealing with your personal salad. But Rav Yoshev actually asked this question. It's a big tzarchi, and I didn't find the clear answer. Let's say you're making broccoli for 500 people. You find broccoli that's a miyat she'eina matzah broccoli. Yeah? And then you wash it or something like that, and you get the broccoli down to miyat she'eina matzah. So it's mutter. You find broccoli that there's only bugs in 4% of this broccoli. So this broccoli is good. Everybody's fine. This broccoli is good. There's only broccoli in 4%. But now you're making the broccoli for 500 people. And now statistically we know that there most likely is bugs in that broccoli. Do you have a chiyuv now of checking every little piece of broccoli? So once again, if we're going to rely on the portion idea, that will definitely help us. One thing I just want to speak out, which is creates a lot of confusion, and I'm going to just do this bekitzer. When it comes, are you allowed to grind something? Now, why would grinding help? A lot of people get very confused. What's this whole grinding thing? So like this, grinding, the amount of bug that there is less than a 60th. Oh, why isn't it batal? Because a berry is not batal. A full bug is not batal. When you grind your strawberries and you make a smoothie, so now you're not going to have any full bug. I know this doesn't sound very appetizing, but you're not going to have any full bug in that smoothie. Now once you have little pieces of non-full bug, that will be batal b'shishim. But there's a rule, you're not allowed to just go and say, oh, I have asur bugs. What am I going to do with these asur bugs? Oh, I'll grind it and then I'll get the protein. No. You cannot do that. That would be a problem. So, why does it help to grind the strawberries? So you're not allowed to grind something that is muhsik. If it's something that's muhsik to have bugs, you can't grind it to get rid of those bugs. However, if it's something which is miyat she'eina matzah, it's, there may be bugs, I wouldn't eat it. Then the pashtus is that you could grind it. So if something's a miyat she'eina matzah, which by the way I heard most strawberries, for example, miyat she'eina matzah, so then you would be able to grind it. It's not a problem. Now I want to say furthermore, if you were, there's a case that's brought where there was bugs in the honey, and the Shulchan Aruch says, the Pri Megadim, I think, whatever, they all say that you're allowed to go and boil up the honey. And then when you boil up the honey, the bugs float to the top, apparently, and you scoop out the bugs. But what do you mean? There's still the tom of the bugs, and you're being mevatel the taste of the bugs. It's not a problem, because the point that you're boiling it up wasn't to be mevatel the taste of the bugs, it was actually to get rid of the bugs. So if you're doing it anyways, so there's even a tzad by muchsik, I'm not tzarichin, but there's even a strong tzad by something that's muchsik to have bugs. If you bought them, it's not, oh shoot, there's bugs, I'll grind it up. But rather, I want a smoothie. I bought it for a smoothie, that's what I want. So there's even for that a strong tzad to say that you'd be allowed to grind those up and it would not be a problem. because that was your intention. You're not mevatling isla lechatchila. I'm grinding strawberries because I want to grind strawberries. And therefore, there is definitely reason to allow having your smoothie. Thank you for listening.